All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. We're in the rotation for our target behavior training, and this training is combined with writing treatment goals. And when we talk about target behaviors, what are we talking about? What do we mean by target behavior? What are they? How do we identify them?
A lot of the times they may be maladaptive behaviors, but not necessarily. It's just the areas in the client's life that you are willing, like looking to improve.
Yeah, exactly right. So areas in their life that we're going to help them improve upon, and we're going to target these behaviors specifically for that reason. And a lot of times we get called into cases due to maladaptive behaviors. So that's kind of like a pretty obvious target behavior that we would select for treatment. And how would we identify these target behaviors? Like, what process do we do to identify these behaviors that we want to target?
An FBA.
Yeah, the functional behavior assessment. So we're completing a functional behavior assessment. We're noticing maladaptive behaviors occurring again and again, which is a sign that those behaviors are becoming reinforced. We're also noticing areas in the BIP's life where maybe staff are providing assistance and prompting and help, or guidance. And maybe we could teach those behaviors and promote more independence. And we're also noticing kind of other behaviors in our VIPs that we could improve upon. So during the FBA process, we are identifying problems that we are looking to help the VIP fix. So let's get into target behaviors, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to write treatment goals in our plan and how we evaluate treatment goals. So let's get into it. So what is a behavior? We talk so much about it. It's the name of the game. It's what we do in every single day. So a behavior is an observable and measurable action by an organism, right? So we need to be able to observe and we have to be able to measure a behavior. It's kind of the backbone of our work to be able to measure behavior, right? We have to measure to make sure that the behavior is trending in the correct direction, that through our interventions and through our work, we're actually making an improvement, making a difference in that VIP's life. And we want to prove that. We just don't want the VIP to say, hey, I feel like you guys are making improvement. We want to prove that through our data collection. And it's okay if it doesn't trend in that direction, because that just means we need to make a change. We need to make a change to our interventions or go back to the FBA and figure out a new way to help this VIP. So without this measurement part, we would be lost in our treatment and we may continue the same treatment when it's not working. We also may not notice improvements that are being made, so it's really important that we could observe and measure. And what dimension of ABA does that really pinpoint? This observable and measurable piece.
Behavioral.
Yeah, behavioral, right in the name, right? So thanks, Nadine. Yeah, exactly right. Behavioral. So behaviors must be biologic in nature, naturally occurring. Corporations can't have behaviors. I guess, cars can't have behaviors. Chairs can't have behaviors, even though people tend to ascribe behaviors to them sometimes, but they cannot have behaviors. It needs to involve movement. So inaction is not a behavior. Not having a behavior is not a behavior. And think about it, not having a behavior isn't something that we could reinforce. We can't use our tools of reinforcement when not behaviors are not happening. So it needs to involve movement and it needs to involve interaction with the environment. And when we say the word environment, we don't a lot of course, we're thinking about the environment all around us, but we also want to consider that B.F. Skinner taught us about the private environment, which is the environment within the skin. So illnesses, other thinking, other kind of internal environmental um, things going on may be contributing to behavior that we have to be keen to. We have to kind of pay attention to, that something internal or private might be going on with the VIP that might be a reason for behavior. So we're going to identify these behaviors. We're going to ensure that they are behaviors, and we're going to create an operational definition. And this operational definition is written in a way that anyone can easily identify the behavior, right? We could pull someone off the street and we could teach them our operational definition and our target behavior, and they could reliably record upon it. That's how plainly written it needs to be. So it needs to be clear, complete, objective. It needs to detail exactly what the behavior looks like. And it needs to be objective. There's no assumptions going on, judgment, or feelings associated with our operational definition. And like I said, I'm going to and we're going to talk about ways to test our definition on the next slide. And then we also hear the word response. And we talked about this at the staff meeting a little bit yesterday. And when I say the word response, I just mean a single instance of behavior. So, response and behavior they're kind of like the same thing almost. So, we kind of use them interchangeably, response and behavior. And of course, there's a dead man's test. Can someone tell me about the dead man's test? What's this about?
A dead man can do it. It's not a behavior.
That's right. If a dead man could do it, it's not a behavior. So a lot of times I want to test my definition by putting it through the dead man's test. And if a dead person can do it, it is not a behavior because it involves action and movement and interaction with the environment. So if a dead person could do it, it is not a behavior, right? So that's kind of a little test that we might put our target behavior and operational definition to. Does anyone have any questions or anything to add about behavior? Okay. So 3 characteristics of a good target behavior from Hawkins and Dobbs, 1977, all the way back in 1977. Number 1, we talked about this a little bit. Objective, referring only to the observable characteristics of the behavior, staying away from words such as intended to, showing interest in, or into more objective ones. So we want to make sure our definitions are objective. We want to make sure they're clear and that it should be readable and unambiguous so that experienced observers could read it and readily paraphrase it accurately. Oops. And we want to make sure it's complete, delineating the boundaries of what is to be included as an instance of the response and what is to be excluded, thereby directing the observer in all situations that are likely to occur, leaving little to their judgment. And we have this in our treatment plan. We have examples and non-examples that we include in the treatment plan. And we might have a target behavior of someone yelling. And what might be an example of a yelling for a made-up VIP? That we would want to track.
A high-pitched scream.
A high-pitched scream. Okay, very nice. And it's okay, so that's an example, pretty self-explanatory. If I saw that high-pitched scream, I would mark it as an instance of that behavior occurring on my data recording sheet. But we also want to include non-examples in our treatment plan as well. So we don't accidentally mark a non-example as a target behavior. So what would be a non-example, perhaps, of yelling that we wouldn't want to record?
Singing loudly.
Singing loudly, nice. So yeah, very good. I like those examples a lot. Yeah, singing loudly might be. I hope it's not misconceived as yelling, but in my case it would be because I'm a terrible singer. So I think that would be appropriate for my treatment plan. So thanks Mark for that. And then we have an example definition here for elopement. And elopement is defined as any instance in which the individual leaves a designated area or supervision without permission, does not respond to redirection within 10 seconds. This includes walking, running, or otherwise moving more than 5 feet away from an assigned space, such as the therapy room, classroom, fenced yard, designated area, during an outing, in a manner that compromises safety or supervision. Okay, so very well done definition here. I really could know this when this behavior occurs based on this definition. And we do have examples here of elopement, exiting a therapy room, and running down the hallway without permission. Pretty self-explanatory. So a non-example here, which we wouldn't want to track as an instance of elopement, is walking 2 to 3 feet away from the table during a break, but remaining within the room and supervision. So that would be a non-example. And this is going to help direct the data recorder as to what is an instance, so something we are going to track, and what is not an example. And you notice they're similar in some ways, and you would expect that some people may have tracked the walking 2 feet away as an instance, but since we included this non-example, it makes that complete definition, and we wouldn't record upon that non-example. And you can include more than one example here. If more than one kind of things are going on with our VIP, we could really include more than one example here. And I've seen you guys do that in your treatment plans, up to 3 or 4 examples and non-examples each, which I really like. You just want to make sure with the non-example that that's actually the behavior that we're kind of tracking. You want to make sure that it's associated with elopement. In this case, it is. Does anyone have any questions about this slide or the previous slide? Okay. So we're going to test our behavior definition. We created it. We want to test it. We want to run it through this test. And Morris in 1985 suggests testing definition of target behaviors by asking 3 questions. And you can always refer to this PowerPoint or this training on YouTube when you're doing your treatment plans. You could also just take a picture, a screenshot of this slide as well for your records when you're writing your target behaviors to ensure that they are proper target behaviors, written correctly. Can you count the number of times that the behavior occurs in? And your answer should be yes here, that we should be able to count the number of times the behavior happens. Secondly, and this is what you guys probably hear me say this a million times, will a stranger know exactly what to look for when you tell them the target behavior you're planning to modify? And of course, we're not going to go around telling strangers about our treatment typically, but that's kind of a test we're thinking about. If I pull a stranger off the street or someone that doesn't know this person, and I taught them about the target behavior by giving them the definition, would they be able to reliably record upon it? And the answer should be yes. That's how good your target behavior should be ran. And then finally, can you break the target behavior down into smaller, simpler behavioral components? And your answer should be no, that the target behavior we wrote should be in the simplest form, the easiest form. We shouldn't try to add any fluff to our definition to make us sound cooler, smarter. We should make it very simple. And the simple definition and really the simple task is one that gets accomplished. So making sure that we write these target behavior definitions in a way that is very simple. Does anyone have any questions about testing behavior definitions? Okay. So using treatment goals. So we're going to move into the second portion of this training, which is using our treatment goals. So we identified target behaviors. We're going to write a target behavior and definition. We're going to give examples, non-examples. And then we're going to create treatment goals. And that's all done in the FBA. We're going to take those target behaviors in the FBA and we're going to create treatment goals. And these treatment goals are going to be goals that we set up for our VIP that we are working towards and that we are going to record data with. And we're going to use our graphing to see if our VIP is reaching these treatment goals. And if they do, we're going to be making changes to the treatment goals based on the progress. And even if they don't, we may be making treatment goal changes. So specifies goals for treatment. Of course, we're going to make these goals and it's going to specify what we're doing each and every day with our VIPs when we're on session. There's some components of the goal, which is setting on where the goal would be practiced. And oftentimes I ask you guys, I'll say, where are you guys going to be recording upon this data? And it could be in all settings. It could be if we're working in the home and the day program. It could be in all settings. It could be specifically just at the program. It could be specifically just at home. So while at home, while at the day program, it outlines what data collection method to use. So when we say a number, if I write in my program goal 3, while at the program, Jimmy will have 3 instances of property destruction. What data recording method am I hinting at by saying that?
Frequency.
Thanks, Jack. That's totally right. Frequency. And so if I'm using a count like that, I'm going to be putting frequency. So what's important? What's an important part of this when I kind of outline in my treatment goal a frequency? What should I ensure is happening on my learning tree? On my graph. Should that be set up with duration?
Oh, I mean, it should be set up for frequency. I was going to say, if it's the behavior for reduction, you would want to see a downward trend. If it's for strengthening, you would want to see an upward trend.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Mark. We want to make sure that the data is going in the right direction. And my questions aren't. You're right that that what I write in this treatment goal, I need to ensure that the same method is on my graph, because I'm essentially going to use my graph to compare it to my treatment goal. So if I write a treatment goal based on frequency, I need to ensure my graph is recording frequency, because if it's not, there's no way to compare upon it. And we're going to take a look at that in a moment. We check out some graphs. It's going to outline what prompt level is required. And this is kind of an optional piece, but we may write in what prompt level is required to kind of mark a successful trial. And then finally outline the performance criteria needed for mastery. So we might want to see a certain level of performance over the course of 3 consecutive weeks, 3 consecutive months, 3 consecutive sessions. Doesn't have to be 3. I don't know why I keep saying 3. Could be 4, could be 5, it could be whatever we expect to see from our VIP in order for this goal to be mastered. Does anyone have any questions about these treatment goals? And I'm sure a lot of these questions may be cleared up on the next few slides, but does anyone have any questions or anything to add about using treatment goals for now? Okay. So there's categories of goals that we're going to consider when we are doing our FBA, when we are working with our VIPs, getting to know our VIPs. We're going to keep these 4 categories in mind, because these are the categories that we're going to be kind of helping our VIP with. And the first one are maladaptive goals. And these, of course, are pretty self-explanatory. Many times we get called into cases due to maladaptive behaviors going on. Supports coordinators are very keen to notice a maladaptive behavior going on. And they're very good at making referrals for these type of behaviors. And these are the problem behaviors that interfere with daily life, relationships, or learning. They could be aggression, self-injury, skin picking, self-injury, and they're kind of the more of the common ones. There's also other ones that could be interfering with relationships or learning, like asking the same questions over and over. Does anyone have another unusual behavior that they're working on right now that they'd like to share with us? Or maladaptive behaviors? Taking off the seatbelt while the car is in motion. Interfering with daily life. That could be a maladaptive behavior that we're tracking.
Grabbing at self inappropriately.
What was it?
Grabbing at self inappropriately.
Okay, yeah, grabbing itself.
With our one guy we're still working on hitting. I mean, it's far and few, and knock on wood that it doesn't happen, but it's still one that we got to pay attention for.
Yeah, definitely a super important behavior to work on. We don't want to be seeing anyone get injured. So nice job reducing this behavior. Okay, yeah, maladaptive behaviors. We have communication and language goals. So these are goals that we're going to think about. And these next 3 categories are areas that the supports coordinators may have difficulties recording upon, or not recording upon, but making referrals to. They're not trained to understand that there's other categories of goals that the BS, that applied behavior analysis, can work on and help improve through our scientific approach to behavioral treatment. So the second goal here, the second category of goals, communication and language goals. So this is increasing functional communication skills, including verbal, augmented, or alternative forms. So what do we mean by that? Verbal communication, vocal communication, augmented communication, like using a tablet, or alternative forms like sign language. And we're going to help our VIP man, which is requesting, or TAC, like labeling, answering intro verbal questions. receptive communication, modeling. These are all ways that we can help our VIP communicate. And maybe a skill deficit in their life. And a lot of times we'll teach a communication goal to help replace a maladaptive behavior, right? Because we're going to use our differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. And we're going to reinforce our VIP using a communication method to help replace the problem behavior. And see my differential reinforcement training and other trainings online to learn more about differential reinforcement. But other times we may get a referral for a VIP, or there's VIPs out there that don't have behavior services, that can't communicate effectively. They don't have a good functional communication, but they may not be having maladaptive behaviors. But this person is still very appropriate for behavioral services. So we could still help them learn to communicate. And we should be involved in that case to help this person communicate to live a better quality of life. So communication language goals. The third goal category is social and play goals. So promoting social interactions, reciprocal play or leisure engagement to support social inclusion and relationship building. So here we're going to help our VIP improve their social circle and also leisure skills such as playing games, watching TV, listening to music, and other personal preferences to live a better quality of life. So we have VIPs, and I think about our VIPs that are kind of standoffish in social situations. Maybe they don't maintain eye contact, they don't initiate conversations, they sit by themselves at program or other social activities, or they kind of just hang out at home. They don't have a wide range of social peers and other kind of group activities to engage in. And you know how, if you're thinking about your own life, how important your social circle is, and the peers that you have and the interactions that you have with your friends and colleagues. We want to make sure our VIPs, if it's important to them, are engaged in these type of activities too. So we can help our VIPs with these social goals as well, and also with play goals as well. Think about our VIPs at program that are sitting by themselves, that are all alone, that aren't involved in program activities. How might we approach those VIPs to help them become more involved?
Ask if they would like to watch a movie with their peers. There's always ball playing in the program. There's community outings and whatnot. So just like checking in with them, even if they do engage in that little conversation with you, that's more socialization that they added to their day, and that's a thing there. Even if they engage in coloring or something, a solo activity, that's fine, rather than just sitting there and not having anything to do.
Yeah, encouraging, providing other activities that the person can engage in, encouraging them to be a part of the group, a part of an activity. Of course, we're not going to force that upon anyone. But we're going to encourage them. We're going to help them build that social circle. What could we do with games and activities to make them more approachable to our folks that aren't engaged in them? Maybe it's over their head. What could we do to these games and activities to help them be a part of the activity, a part of the social activity?
Break the game down into smaller parts and make it simpler.
Yeah, Christy, thank you so much. We're going to break this game down. We're going to make it more approachable to our VIPs. We're going to make it more simpler for our VIPs so that they could participate too. And we could do this in a lot of different ways, like providing assistance, like you said. I was playing a game and I was talking to a BSC the other day, and they took this idea and ran with it, which I was really impressed by. But I was playing Connect 4 in the day program, and I don't care if this person connects 4 or not. I don't care about any of the rules of the game. We simply had fun naming the colors of the tokens, requesting the token, and then dropping it into the slot until the board was filled up. You could do this with any game pretty much if you're creative enough. Another way is like maybe playing Uno, and you line up the colors on the table and you draw a card and you put the card down on the correct pile. We could simplify these games to make them more approachable to our folks so they are starting to learn leisure skills and we're helping improve their quality of life. Does anyone have anything else to add or any other examples of social or play goals that I missed? I know our Sue does a great job getting all our VIPs involved with yoga and other kind of activities like that at program, which is a really special thing that Sue brings to the team. So thank you, Sue, for that. And that's definitely falls under this goal. She also helps one of our VIPs by having them be her assistant and putting this VIP out there when normally she wouldn't, giving her kind of a center stage in this activity. So thank you, Sue, for your approach to the social and play goal section. And finally, our functional goals. And this is goals that support daily living and adaptive skills to improve independence and quality of life. And when I'm doing my FBA, in this case, I'm noticing VIPs that are kind of need extra assistance for maybe tasks that I think that they could do on their own. So I'm looking for intrusive prompting. I'm looking for areas in their life where they're really relying on staff or stakeholders to come in and complete these tasks for them, such as hygiene goals like brushing teeth, using the toilet, washing hands, to managing an apartment, applying for jobs, paying bills. So this crossing the street, navigating the community, paying at the grocery store, following a shopping list. These are all functional goals that I could help my VIP with to live a more independent life. And I could feed my prompting and help feed the staff's prompting as I promote more independence. And think about think about when we finally learned a skill we didn't, maybe when we were younger and we didn't really need our parents' help anymore, and they faded their prompts. And what happened? We became more and more independent. And through that independence, we had a much better sense of self-worth. We also felt very proud that we were able to do these tasks on our own. We no longer required our parents' assistance anymore. And it directly improved the quality of life for us. So think about those kind of things when we're thinking about functional goals, and think about how these goals are really going to expand our VIP's ability to access more reinforcements in the environment. And think about it, all these goals. And that's kind of our overarching kind of goals here, is to help our VIP access a better quality of life through accessing more reinforcing activities, more reinforcing moments, so they can live a better quality of life. Does anyone have any questions about any of these categories or anything to add that I may have missed?
I have a question just to see which goal category decision making would fall under. If a VIP has difficulty making decisions and they kind of rely on their peers or staff to make that for them, what category would that fall under? Communication or functional?
Well, sometimes these goals kind of fall under multiple categories. So I would just, you know, I mean, to me, I would probably lean towards functional for that one, but don't overthink it, Chloe. We would accept that under any section. I think that's a great goal. And I think that's help advocating for our VIPs, building that autonomy and independence for them to be able to choose what is best for them in their own life. So I love that. I wouldn't get hung up on what category to put it in. I would just slap that bad boy in there.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Appreciate the question. Anything to add? So guys, when you're working with your VIPs, think about these 4 goals categories and think about what we can do to help them live a better quality of life. All right, categories of goals. So here's a goal example we would put in our treatment plan, and this is kind of how we write things, and I kind of color coded it in all situations. So that's where the goal will work on. And this is a maladaptive behavior goal that we might see in our treatment plan. And these are all made up names, of course. In all situations, Thomas will independently reduce, and that's the prompt level, reduce elopement behavior. That's the behavior of interest or the target behavior that we are looking to reduce to no more than 5 instances. So 5 instances is the data recording method we are using here, which is what data recording method?
Frequency.
Frequency. So I should expect to see a frequency on my graph. And for mastery criteria and performance criteria for goal mastery, I would like to see that over 5 consecutive sessions. So let's take a look at the graph and see if Thomas achieved this goal. Here's a graph, and you can see it is frequency count. So we're looking for Thomas to engage 5 or fewer, no more than 5 per session across 5 consecutive sessions. Did he do it?
Yes.
Yes, it looks like he did do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Thomas, as I'm reviewing my graph, we should do this on session frequently. And we're going to look at our treatment goal. And you could plug these treatment goals right into the learning tree in Central Reach. So I could pull up my learning tree and I could see the goal. I don't need to keep referencing my behavior support plan. I can put it right into this. And that's an effective strategy, especially if you have technicians on the team. And we're going to see if Thomas completed this goal. And if he did, we're proud of Thomas. And we could do several things at this moment. We can make this goal more difficult to achieve by reducing the mastery criteria. So maybe we say no more than 3 instances moving forward per session. And we're going to kind of want, and due to this elopement behavior, could be a serious behavior, could be a dangerous behavior. So we may want to continue to work on it and keep reducing it as we are seeing Thomas improve. In this case, he did. So we are going to move along. And we may mark this goal mastered if we are satisfied with 5 instances. Probably not. We'd probably want to reduce the 5 to maybe 3, and then 2, and then maybe 0, and then try to zero this behavior out so elopement doesn't occur anymore. What kind of replacement behavior might we teach Thomas to help reduce this behavior?
For a break.
We could teach him to ask for a break. And especially if this behavior is escape maintained, that would be a great approach to treatment where we're going to teach him a functional communication and we're going to use his abilities, his strengths, teach him the best way to communicate for him. And we're going to teach him to ask for a break. And we hope that that will reduce elopement behaviors by using our differential reinforcement techniques. Thank you. So here's a communication goal. While at the day program, Sandy, with 1 verbal prompt, will ask for help or break. Wow. Wow. How'd you know that? In 80% of presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. So here we have 80% of presented opportunities. So what can you expect to see on my graph? So we see a frequency here?
Percentage.
Percentage. We should see a percentage on the graph because that's the way we wrote the program goal. And for skill acquisition behaviors, we want to use percentage a lot of times because we want to show that we are creating trials or opportunities to work on these goals. So let's take a look at Sandy, and we need 80% over 5 consecutive sessions. So did Sandy reach that goal? And you see percent correct over here?
No.
No, Sandy didn't reach her goal. So what might we do in this case?
We can change the goal.
We could change the goal to make it more achievable, make it easier to achieve. What else might we do? This isn't too many data points. What might we do? And she did show some success here.
Could we change the treatment?
We may want to change the treatment. We may say, hey, if this keeps going on like this, that we need to change this treatment. It is not effective in helping Sandy. And that's one of the dimensions of ABA that we're concerned about, effective. It is not effectively changing this behavior. So we may want to change our interventions. Now, this is only what? We have about 10 data points. We may say, hey, let's give it a try for a few more weeks to see if this behavior starts to change. Let's give it a little bit longer to see if this behavior starts to change based on current treatment interventions. And if it doesn't, I could revisit the FBA, like Christian said, and change my approach to treatment. Or I can make this goal easier to achieve, like Diego mentioned. And that's through your own clinical judgment and talking with your BCBA. So what's the best approach here? Appreciate the answers. So Sandy, we're gonna make some changes and we will see that improvement, we hope. Here's a social play goal. While in the day program, Freddie will sit in group settings using model prompts for at least 5 minutes in 90% of preferred opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. And this one might be a little tricky, but what should we expect to see on our graph? What data recording method? Dun, dun, dun.
Duration?
Oh, Jack, you fell for it.
Ah.
Percentage.
Percentage, yeah. So even though we do have this 5-minute duration reported there, we're still going to mark it as a trial. So we're going to say if Freddie sat for 5 minutes, we're going to mark that that trial was successful and put a yes. And if he didn't sit for 5 minutes, we're going to mark that as an unsuccessful trial. So even though we do see a duration in here, and I'm sorry to throw you that curveball, Jack, but I'm glad because it's a teaching moment for us. And we're going to be using percentage of opportunity still, but we include this duration as kind of, this is the criteria for us to mark a successful trial for a skill acquisition goal. So let's take a look at Freddie's graph and see what he did. So here's Freddie's graph, and we see percent correct here on the y-axis. And did Freddie meet his goal?
No.
Doesn't look like he did. So again, we're going to maybe reevaluate our treatment. We're going to do those things that we said we are going to do it for the last one, or we may continue this treatment a little bit longer to see if progress is going to be made. I mean, he's very close. Let's see if we could tweak a few treatment ideas. The other idea to think about, guys, is we may be wrong about the function for this behavior. And that's why our treatment interventions are not working well. So we may want to revisit the FBA as well. Okay, that's Freddie. Freddie, we believe in you. We're going to get this done. Finally, our functional goal with our boy Samsonite. While at the house, Samsonite will dress himself after toileting with only one verbal prompt in 80% of presented opportunities across 5 consecutive sessions. So on this one, again, we're going to see a percentage of opportunities. And guys, I want to think that for defaulting that 99% of the time for skill acquisition behaviors, we want to set it up for percentage of opportunities. We want to show that we're creating opportunities to practice this behavior. And that's kind of the name of the game for skill acquisitions. That throughout our session, we're creating opportunities to practice these goals as many times as we can. And that's kind of our duty while on the job. So we're going to take a look at Samsonite's graph. We're going to expect to see a percentage on his graph so we could compare it to this goal. Did Samsonite reach his goal?
Yes.
Yes, he did. He reached his goal. So here we can mark this goal as successful, or we may want to increase that percentage to be 100%, which he did achieve, it looks like. So that's great for Samsonite, because we would want him to dress every time after toileting. We wouldn't want only some of the times for this particular behavior. So maybe we would want to increase this goal, and we would say this goal has been updated to include increased mastery criteria here. So Samsonite can dress himself 100% of presented opportunities, and it looks like he did achieve that as well. So we're happy for Samsonite to be able to use the toilet as independently as possible and dress himself after. So he comes out fully dressed, which is very important for the rest of the community.
We can fade the prompts.
Thank you, Diego. Yes, we could also fade this prompt. So we could also move this verbal prompt. What might we do here? How could we fade our prompts here?
No prompts in that one.
Yeah, so we can make it independent. We can make it independent. We can also think about like and I appreciate you bringing this up. We could also do like a time delayed prompt fading, if you guys remember from the prompt training we do. We may say, okay, we're gonna offer a verbal prompt after 10 seconds or something like that. And we're gonna mark it yes. If we have to use verbal prompts, of course, if we mark it independent, we're gonna mark no on that trial. That even though this person did the behavior, they required additional prompting. So that was not a successful trial based on our mastery criteria. I appreciate you bringing that up. I forgot that.
Could you also change the level of prompt, like
Yeah,
from verbal to like maybe nonverbal? You're pointing
yeah.
at pose or something.
So if the behavior, if the goal is improving, you may want to do a indirect verbal prompt or an independence, which is no prompting. And if the behavior isn't improving, you may want to increase the level of prompting from verbal to model or gesture. Yes, so of course, you can also change that prompt level to be more intrusive if the VIP is not making success, or less intrusive if the VIP is showing a lot of success. And that's exactly what we should be doing.
It's important to note too that if you're going to do that in Central Reach for like a task analysis, there is a box at the bottom you need to check that. I forget what it says verbatim, but it's something like count prompting as negative, because if you don't, it won't calculate the percent of independence correctly.
Yes, that's correct. And please meet with your coordinators to help you with your learning trees, your setup for your learning tree if you need it. Any other questions about how we use our graphing? And a lot of times people hear the word graphing and they think we do all these standard deviations and statistics. We do not. This is called a visual analysis. We're just looking at the trends in behavior to seeing if improvements made. And one of the many reasons why I love ABA is it's just based on kind of looking at the graph and seeing what direction the behaviors are going in. And it's beautifully simple. Anything else, guys? So reviewing goal status, and we talked about this a little bit. We're going to use the graph to help determine if mastery criteria is being met. If the goal is met, we can mark the goal as mastered or make the goal more difficult. And we identified many ways we could make the goal more difficult to achieve. To promote more independence, fewer prompting, higher criteria, and those kind of things we talked about. If goal is not making progress after a set period of time, look at the interventions, as Christian told us, and review with the BCBA. So we're going to check out interventions, maybe revisit the FBA, maybe review it with the BCBA to see what changes were made. Like I said, we could be wrong about the function. Maybe the behavior has multiple functions. So we may need to revisit. So you see that we're not just continuing with something that doesn't work. We're going to make sure we are reporting upon it to ensure we are making progress, to ensure, and it's going to help guide our treatment, which makes ABA different than other approaches for behavioral treatment that I personally love, because it's guided by data, objective data, which is really beautiful. Does anyone have any questions? And does anyone know this guy?
David S. Pumpkins, man.
That's right.
You ask us that every single time.
Well, some people are new, Natalia. So the joke is a little fresh for some people, a little stale for others. But seriously, does anyone have many questions or anything to add? I see we have a young one over Diego's shoulder learning about ABA. Expose him early, loving it. All right, guys. Well, that is our target behavior and treatment goal training. I hope you guys learned some things, and I hope it's useful in your practice when you're out there with our VIPs. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm just a message away on Teams. If I can answer it quick, I will. If not, we could schedule a time to sit down and chat, and I'd be more than happy to do that with each and every one of you. I really appreciate all your hard work out there. Thank you for all you do. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
One.
Have a good day.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Good one, guys.